Okay, we reconvene from closed meeting at 6:15 p.m. I'm going to move to item 4 on the agenda, the board protocol. The Board of Trustees of the LaPorte Independent School District is now convened and wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. Every student's success is our #1 priority. As the LaPorte ISD Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, adopt policy, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and communicate the district's vision and success to the community. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. School board meetings are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting. Board members may not respond to the public comment section. These proceedings may be recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. Thank you for taking time this evening to join us and for your interest in the LaPorte Independent School District. At this time, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would join me in the pledge of the United States and Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And if you would join me for the invitation. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here today, we thank you for fellowship and family. We ask that you strengthen us, restore us, and inspire us with your love. Lord, would you fill us with your peace as we work to become a stronger team for the benefit of our students, employees, and community. May you please bless our district as we move forward into a new school year and to give us strength to overcome the challenges ahead. As we share together, may you guide us by your Holy Spirit and lead us into all truth. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, we're going to, board, if we are joining down below, we're going to have our student recognition. Yeah.
For Nicholas Canales, many successes on the golf course across Texas and the nation during the past year. LaPorte Mayor Louis Rigby proclaimed July 26, 2021 as Nicholas Canales Day in the city. Canales in April became the first LaPorte High School golfer since 1983 to qualify for the UIL State Tournament, where he finished 8th among a field of more than 70 golfers. It's pretty good. There's more. This summer, he placed 6th in the First Tee National Championship at Clemson University. Canales then shot a 5 under par and won the American Junior Golf Association tournament held in St. Louis. In September, he'll partner with a PGA professional for the Pure Insurance tournament at Pebble Beach. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Canales.
Is there a policy on recruiting current students to play on your chamber golf team?
It's always on my
The fight is on.
Okay, we'll go to item 6, public comments. The board will now hear those who wish to make comments and who have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Ms. Thompson, do we have any?
We do not.
Do not. Okay, so we'll move to item 7, public hearing on the intention of the Porte ISD to consider designating the air products reinvestment zone, and okay, and we'll go ahead and open that up at 6:22 p.m. So, do we have anybody wishing to speak on this topic? So hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing at 6:22 p.m. We'll go to item 8, administrative reports. Dr. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. Today certainly is a great day to be a Bulldog. And our principals and the district administrators are all hard at work putting the finishing touches on our return to learn plans for the students and staff that will join us for the 21-22 school year. First day of school is scheduled for Wednesday, August 18th. Our current plans to return to 100% in-person learning for all students. At this time, no remote learning options will be offered and masks will be optional, regardless of vaccination status. Currently, per Governor Greg Abbott's executive order, the Porte ISD will not and cannot legally require masks. However, we are strongly encouraging parents and staff to vote your conscience and use masks based on your needs and your family needs. And so that's going to be our plan. We want to ask parents to look at your issues and your situations, and if you deem it necessary, you and your child, or you mandate that your child wear a mask, but we will not be mandating them from the school district. As we have stated in several of our updates, the state of Texas will not fund a remote learning option this school year. Therefore, remote learning will not be an option for LaPorte students. And we certainly want to strongly encourage all of our students that are scheduled to attend LaPorte and to be here to show up on the very first day of school. Outstanding staff has been hired, buildings are being cleaned and disinfected, and staff are making ready all the necessary preparations and precautions to support the learning, growth, and development of our students. We encourage our parents to check out our district and campus websites to get the particulars as it relates to their child's needs for school. We will continue to monitor and reassess our protocols for the mitigation of COVID and its conditions as dictated. The district may need to modify protocols at any given time to address specific needs and circumstances in order to protect the health, safety, and well-being of our students, employees, and ultimately the entire community. The following guidelines are in accordance with the direction from the Texas Education Agency. The guidelines that we are following, rather, are in accordance with the Texas Education Agency, the state of Texas, and the Centers for Disease Control. We ask that our stakeholders please keep in mind that some information such as bus routes and others will continue to be updated regularly and will be posted very soon. Although we are not mandating masks again for classrooms and campuses, we are strongly recommending that parents and students and families riding buses and in classrooms make those decisions based on your needs. Our buses are tightly spaced areas, and students who sit together are strongly encouraged to take all precautions necessary. Every student's success is our number one priority. You'll hear that a lot tonight. Every student's success is our number one priority. This is our mission at LaPorte ISD, and we certainly aim to pursue our mission with great care, tremendous compassion, and with a great deal of common sense as we work through and work to keep our students and staff safe. This will conclude my remarks for this evening. There are several other administrative reports this evening, and we certainly appreciate the board for giving us this opportunity to present to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. We'll go to item 8B, Port ISD return to in-person instruction and continuity of services, RIPICS plan.
We kind of been giggling about that. We need to make it up. One more Tonight, our members of our COVID-19 response team will present the highlights of our return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan, our RIPICS plan. So joining me will be Corey Marler, Yvonne Bennett, Angie Viator, and Adam Cullen. And the RIPICS plan is required as part of the American Recovery Act in receiving ESSER-3 funds. So we were required to do that. However, one really positive benefit in working through this process is that we had developed a reopening plan this time last year, and so we had a really great start and were able to make the necessary modifications. But as Dr. Jackson said, this is a fluid plan, and we will be making updates as circumstances warrant. The plan is actually housed on the district website in 2 locations, on the parent portal and also in the public notices website. So with that, starting with curriculum and instruction. School starts August 18th. That is a Wednesday, and the day before that, on August 17th, we will welcome our freshmen. As Dr. Jackson said, we will be attending 100% in person, and so what that means is that students must be in attendance at least 90% of the days the course is offered in order to be awarded credit. That's not new. That's been on the books. That's a regulation that's been on the books for many, many years. As such, student attendance is earned through in-person instruction. And this last bullet, student acceleration and intervention plans will be implemented. It may look like a small bullet, but it is something that is very important. We have been working diligently to be equipped to provide our students with the acceleration supports that they need. You probably have heard a little bit about House Bill 4545 that does require that students who have not passed any STAR exam shall have interventions, and we are geared up. We're learning about it. We have participated in webinars. We are talking to our peers. We're learning as much as we can about it, and even the TEA is still trying to define some of the specifics within the plan. But we are on target. We are doing the work, and we are ready to support our students when they walk in the door August 18th. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Marler. Thank you.
Thank you.
When we were in this position last year, we had recommendations that actually broke transportation out. It was not under public transportation. And right now, that's what transportation is, people transportation is. And as of right now, no limit on riders. General education students still have to register for service. Special needs services will be done on a one-on-one basis. We'll make sure we contact them and take care of them like we always do. Buses will have hand sanitizer and disinfectant spray. Students may wear a face covering if they so choose. And then any student that's sick at home will not be able to ride home on a bus. That is something that we implemented last year. We're going to stay with that. We're going to, if they're sick, parent has to come pick them up.
Say that again?
If a student gets sick at school,
At school?
they're not allowed to ride a bus home.
Okay.
As far as the facilities, the other thing that we had last year was, we were told that the virus could live on services up to 72 hours. Then they changed it could do 15 hours. Then it changed it was 9 hours. Then it got, we just decided to stay with the cleaning kits that we had last year. The teachers were confident with it. They felt safe with it. The principals agreed. We're going to stay with the same solutions and everything we had. We still have the two manufacturers, one in Georgia, one in Pasadena, we can purchase from. The towels are readily available. We're good with that. Each campus will still have their misting machines for disinfecting. Athletics has already started theirs. They've got their backpacks for each of the field houses and the gyms. They've already started. Coach Thompson and I checked in on it this afternoon after our meeting. And then the sneeze guards will be used in the front office. Two things that happened today that we didn't get on here. Water fountains will be closed except for the bottle fillers. Those will still be running for them. We've ordered some more. We've ordered, I want to say 10 or 15 back in February. They're still not here. I don't know when they'll be here, but we've got those ordered. And playgrounds are open. So anything outside that's not covered, we don't have that type of playground. Sun's hitting it, children can play. We're not closing playgrounds. Everything's open as well. Any questions on facilities, transportation?
Corey, how many of those backpack type machines, I want to call them a
So
Clorox machine, but I'm probably wrong.
Okay, so we have two Clorox machines.
Okay.
And those are our big areas, just like we have before. Anything over 1,200 square feet, those machines are used, and they're mostly used at the high school because it goes a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
The backpack sprayers, every campus has one. Athletics has 3, I believe. And then we have pump-up sprayers in classrooms. For custodians on the carts, we have them on buses. Every bus has a 1-gallon pump-up sprayer. It's got a mist nozzle on it, and most of the solution in that is 85% alcohol.
So the bus has a pump-up sprayer.
Every bus. We also have hand sanitizer also on the bus.
My question, Corey, is the board's aware, that what a premium it is to get bus drivers, and that if a bus driver were to get sick, having a bit with COVID or anything else, what a detriment that can be to our district, right? So you mentioned sneeze guards. Is that is that plausible that we could put something like that to protect, like the cockpit, if you will?
So we can't enclose them as a driver. That becomes a textile issue. We looked at that last year. We spoke about that. The closest that we could come to was on the, I can't remember which seat it was, but they could have a guard on it. It becomes an issue with safety at that point. So we kind of backed away from it. The drivers themselves stay on their seat. We have a monitor that we protect pretty well, and they're in charge of spraying the wipes, the solution, and stuff like that. Can it happen? Yes. It can happen. Child walking up the steps and sneeze on them, we know that, but we can't enclose them because of the safety aspect. And we tried last year not to separate people. That didn't happen all the time. We tried to keep them on the same bus as much as possible. We're going through those pains right now. One driver gets sick, and that's 3 routes. That's up to 150 with what we're looking at with the 3 routes. So it could domino very, very fast. And as of right now, I don't see anything changing. July 9th was the last time we got anything that was different. But last night, you saw hospitals starting to close. We're having to change how we're doing our physicals right now. We're having to change on some other things. So transportation is the one that we need to be, it'll change before anything else.
Do we have enough bus monitors to have one monitor per bus?
No, ma'am. Not per bus. So the
Per route, I guess, would that make sense?
well, no, so we don't have seats for some of them. So for instance, I can tell you right now, at Heritage on a normal route, there is a route from Heritage to Pecan. I don't have I can't put a
There's not
monitor
an
on
extra
it, there's
seat.
not an extra seat. Now, we have broken that bus down, and we put a monitor on there when it's needed. And if there's routes on regular education that becomes needed, we move a monitor over there. But remember, by law, we have to do pre-K and special needs first. Special needs is first.
Yes, sir.
That's first no matter what.
Sure.
And then pre-K, they always have a monitor, even if someone in the office has to go with them. And then the regular ed routes that a bus driver comes in, or a principal calls, or if we have an issue like that, then we put a monitor on that one. But there are buses that we cannot, we have to break it down to get a seat available for them. I think there's that route runs twice from Heritage, from Pecan back to Heritage and back. That's really it.
But we have enough people.
Well, right now
We hope we do.
we're short about 6 right now.
Okay.
Bus drivers, I know there was 7 turned in, and I'm not sure where we are as of this week.
Corey, based on what you're saying, have you already got a pretty good idea of who's on, you're saying your bus is full, so are we,
Well-
I know, what I'm getting at is pre-COVID, we were like over 6,000 bus drivers.
Yes.
And, do we have any idea what we're looking at this year?
Right now, I know we're at 200, and I want to turn around and do it, but we're around 200 kindergarten pre-K students and about 100, or 164. I want to say about 75 of them have registered for transportation. And as of Thursday of last week, we have 500 registered. And that's all we have registered so far.
Notoriously, do parents usually wait though, or?
Yes. So
No,
normally,
last minute.
it's always late. And I'm calling this a normal year. It's not like COVID where they're having to rush to get on the bus. This is going to be I'm going to call it a normal year. Special needs, though, is starting to come in. Those buses are filling. And that's the ones that we're really worried about first, because we need to make sure that we have enough people for the wheelchairs and we can get everything that we need. We have some extra wheelchairs this year, and we'll take care of that as normal. But I think it's very low. I think it's very low right now compared to where we've
Compared
been.
to prior years.
Compared to prior years. Because I was really hoping we'd be around 1,100 by now.
If it stays that low, it's probably going to obviously jump up. If it were to be abnormally low, we'd have the ability of spacing them on the buses. Instead of having them sit 2 or 3 per seat, we can
Yes,
space them out.
and we're doing that per route anyway. We're not gonna limit them, but, our routers, especially our special needs routers, are separating them right now where it's every other. As soon as we start adding it on, we'll just fill in the seats as we go. Y'all know the hot spots. Shore Acres will be hot. Prime Trailer Park over on, that one will come up. There'll be a lot of riders there. I still do not have a lot at Morgan's Point, or Morgan's Landing, excuse me. I still don't have very many there. It's coming in, it's just not where we normally are. But I think people are waiting. I really do on transportation. We still want parents to take their children to school. That's the safest route for sure. But we're going to separate them out on the bus, make sure that they're protected, and we're going to go with our protocols that we've done. We've put that out. It's actually on our website, and we're working on some other stuff that getting out as much information as we can to the parents.
On a bright note, we haven't heard that they don't answer the phone and I can't register things. So see, everything's
I
working
know,
okay.
it's working. See, I know you said that. Everything's working so
Hold
far.
on, no.
Yes. Everything looks good. It is. It's moving along. We've fixed some issues that we had. Everything right now is rolling right along. So I feel comfortable with it.
Can I ask a transportation
Yes.
question? Can I ask a maintenance question?
Yes.
Are you gonna talk about maintenance in a minute?
No, well, I was just gonna do the facilities as that as a whole.
Okay, I'll wait till
the
facilities.
facilities itself, what I was saying is that I'm done with it. We just added the playgrounds and the water fountains, but I can answer anything else you'd like to.
Okay. I have a dream
Okay.
that our district will look on the outside
Yes.
like what's going on
Yes.
the inside. I don't think we're ever gonna look like Disney World. I'm not saying we should.
I'm with you.
You know, that it's ridiculous. But we have a lot of bushes and a lot of trees and a lot of power washing and things that
Yes.
needs to be done. Are we gonna get there before school opens? The
Um,
last thing I want, when we're working so hard on our image and trying to recapture all of our children, is a parent with a child driving up on the first day
Yes.
with knee-high weeds and stuff coming up between the cracks and brown on the outside of the building that didn't get power washed off over the summer and
So the stadium starts tomorrow, it's supposed to start today, but with the storm, they got knocked back. We're working
I
on
could
this.
care less
I know-
about
I know,
stadium.
but
I'm talking about
but
schools where kids get educated.
I understand, but I got a contractor to do the stadium because it has to be soft wash. We don't have soft wash systems, for instance, like Heritage or some other places, and we're gonna have to contract some of that out. The mowers right now are mowing about 2.5 campuses a day. Matter of fact, they're doing well above what we've been doing. I've interviewed 3 people so far. I've had about 6 no-shows on the extra 2 people that we were gonna hire in to do power washing. If I can't get them in, then we're gonna start power washing outside. I've already got the people set up, and that would be a full power wash, not a soft wash. We do have some issues, I can tell you right now, Lomax Junior High is first. That's probably the worst school right now that we need to be power washing and getting it taken care of. The outside of the Porte Elementary around the gym, that's the high stuff. We're gonna have to get some stuff in there to do that. So we're working on the power washing side. I've already got contractors in to get that stuff going, because it's 2 different things. You can't use the power washer on the stadium.
Yeah, I got you.
So I'm working down that way, and we're trying to go as fast as we can. We are. I'm trying to get in people. I've got probably one more interview. Hopefully I can get them in and they'll start going. But mowing wise and taking care of the pond's been sprayed. Around the athletic facility and the other side over here has been sprayed. We've been taking care of that. That's all been done. And they're mowing, it's almost 2.5 campuses a day. So they're staying on top of it. There are some bushes that are dead, and I've been talking to the principals about what we can do on that. We're gonna, hopefully if I get them in, we'll take over the flower bed. The flower beds at Baker and Lomax Elementary right now are contracted out. That company comes in and takes care of that. They weed it, they just take care of the rose bushes and this other stuff that we do there. And so what we're focused on right now is making sure that the concrete is sprayed and all the facilities are mowed. That is what we can do in-house with what we have.
So we would have to hire someone to come in and trim trees and bushes?
We've been trimming trees all summer. All the trees have been trimmed back as far back as we can get to it. I don't have anything to go higher. I can look at wherever you're talking about and look at it, but all the trees.
Give me an example of somewhere that's trimmed, and I'll run by there tomorrow.
Reed was trimmed.
Okay,
We've done all of the high school and the Port Elementary.
okay.
We're working on, I don't know if they've done the Port Junior High yet, but I know that they were working on that. I know the bus lane at College Park's been done. I don't know about the other one.
Okay, I mean, that's enough.
This might seem ridiculous, this is more of a Dr. Jackson question. One of the buildings that I guess that I would love to see have attention would be the DAP on Broadway. And so this, it's not harsh, but it kind of looks like a prison. It's just, it fits really well with all the other dilapidated buildings on Broadway. That sounds really terrible. There's I guess a group of citizens, benefactors if you will, that have come together and want to invest money on Main Street, Broadway, the 2 districts, right? And so my question is, are there any restrictions with ISD buildings? Like if they wanted to come in and perhaps put a mural, like a nice, beautiful, colorful ISD mural on the side of that DAP building, completely paid for by the community, is that an option, or are there certain restrictions that prohibit that?
I'd appreciate it if you give me a text with them so we can just have a conversation. I don't want to say no, but I also don't want to say just yes. I'd like to visit with them.
That way, it takes the onus off the district, if you guys, and dollars, I know you guys spread them thin, right? So, but if you guys are receptive to it, then we can definitely
If you get
facilitate.
me in touch with them, I'd be more than happy to visit with them and we have conversations.
The signage on that PAEP, to me, that's confusing. We know what that means, but 99% of the people driving down the street don't know what that means. You know what I mean? I mean, does it even say LPISD? Or I think it says, yeah.
But I think somewhere out there it says.
Or does it even have an LP? I can't remember.
Some of the letters are falling off.
They've taken,
Yeah,
they took off.
it's just- it's
No,
just
that's
pretty
a new
rough.
set of letters.
That's a new set of letters
Yeah.
now.
That was
The new
that
set
was
of letters
done.
says DOT,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that was done.
Yeah.
It seemed like the others were still
Maybe
on.
we need to have the Porte ISD put under there or something.
Yeah.
That's not, the building next, the building that we're working on, the inside will be finished up pretty quick. They're
Yeah,
scraping,
storage, yeah.
they're scraping the side, that side of the building would be something that you, I mean, until we start moving dirt, we can't finish out the front, and we're waiting on that, but that side of that building would be easy to take care of.
But get them in touch with us.
I'll do that.
We're more than happy to have a conversation about it.
Thank you, Jeff, for bringing that.
And I'll look at the letters, I mean, we can,
Thank you.
that was a change, I don't know what it was.
It used to say the Porte ISD,
Said side, that's what it was, yeah, and that was
At
taken
least
off.
it said
they were
Port
kinda
ISD on
died,
it,
yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, well,
That's
Thank you.
I mean, now I'm kind of happy it doesn't say Laporte ISD on it. It's in rough condition. I'm just be honest, like it's
we
pretty
got
bad.
work to do. We got some work to do. We acknowledge that.
The retention ponds are being mowed and sprayed. That was another one of the areas there.
Yes.
Like, those are being, those have been, we bought the track mower. They've been running it pretty constant. If we don't, anywhere that we don't have water standing, which in the Shore Acres area, I think it's rained every day for the last 2 months.
I hope you don't take what I'm saying, that I don't think people are working. That's
No,
not
it's
what
just a
I
lot of
think.
work, yeah.
I just want, when parents bring their kids
Yes.
for the first day, you only have one chance to make that first
That's right.
impression. And we're trying to tell those 5-year-old kids and those 4-year-old kids and those 3-year-old kids at ECC or Bulldog, and I want them to be proud to be Bulldog, and I want
That's
that
right.
parent to feel good when they drop them off. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
with
want-
you 100%.
I'm not saying your guys aren't working hard, I'm not,
No, no.
or ladies, whatever, I'm
Yeah.
not saying they're not working hard, just, there's a lot of work to do.
And there's some things that Dr. Jackson and I have talked about, adding flower beds and adding stuff that we're trying to get implemented. I gotta have people apply,
Yeah,
and I gotta have them come to, they gotta show up, and that's the thing, and that's some of the things. We have looked at contracting,
Yes.
we've looked at contracting out, and then the contractors don't show up,
yeah.
and we don't have enough people. So we have been doing that, and that is some of the things that we've spoken about, especially on this building. There's certain areas that we need to fix here. The freeze, there's still bushes that Lomax Junior have that we're waiting to pull up. So yes, I understand completely.
Board, do y'all have any more questions for Corey? Thank you, Corey.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it back.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't.
Take a rest.
Yeah.
Good evening, I'm right here. Sorry.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
Thank you. Um, huh? This? Oh, fancy. Wow, I need one of these for my own desk. All right. Good evening again. I'd like to begin by giving you a quick recap of our summer feeding program. We offered free meals at all of our 5 summer school campuses and also to the ECC of Heritage. We served both, of course, the enrolled summer school students as well as the community children for both June and July. I think we opened June 1st and we closed on July 22nd. We served 1,682 breakfasts and 2,437 lunches over the course of the summer. For our meal distribution plan for this coming year, there are 3 basic things I'd like you to know. The first is which the U.S. Department of Agriculture is allowing us to continue to offer our students free meals for the entire school year, 21-22. So we're very happy about that. Secondly, since we are returning to in-person learning, we will no longer be required to offer community curbside meals. So we will just be concentrating on feeding our students that are coming in person. And then lastly, even though student meals will be offered at no cost, USDA is allowing us to distribute and process free and reduced meal applications. And you're saying, why would we do that? We're offering free meals. It's a burden to process them, but two big advantages. Primarily, we're doing this to establish the 30-day carryover eligibility for the 22-23 school year. In other words, if I apply and I'm free for this 21-22 school year, that free eligibility will carry over for the first 30 days of the 22-23 school year. So it helps, it's the benefit that keeps on giving, at least for the first 30 days of the new school year. Primarily, that's our goal, is to establish that carryover eligibility.
How are we communicating
Yeah.
that? Because I would think as a parent, I would say, oh, I don't need to fill that out because it's already free.
Right, we are doing publicity for that. On our registration, online registration, there's a link that asks them if they would like to apply for free reduced meals. To do that, we're also sending out to the campuses paper applications so they can distribute that. And it actually brings me to this, I guess, the second reason why we want to do this. Not only, of course, for the free meals, but as you probably know, the free and reduced percentages are used for many things in the district. For accountability, for state funding, for E-rate, technology funding. Also, when students are free and reduced, sometimes there are fee waivers for standardized tests, even for college entrance applications, sometimes it's a discount for those fees. So it's a win-win in the lunchroom as well as in the classroom. So I'll probably be getting with Adam, and we'll try to put out some sort of flyer that lists all those good things about applying, not only for the free meals for the next year, but also for the advantages of I just spoke. So you'll be seeing that soon. And lastly, the standard operating procedures for food safety and sanitation. We'll continue to practice our enhanced protocols that we established for this prior year, with, of course, emphasis on more frequent cleaning on the high-touch areas. So the serving line near where the cashier is. Of course, and we're going to continue to support our training needs with our employees. Nothing's really changed. We pretty much are going to continue what we did for this prior when COVID was at, well, now I guess it's even still at a high point. But other than that, I did want to mention, I just heard today that I think we're going to be putting up on some of the tables the barriers that y'all saw last year. Not all the tables, is that correct, Dr. Jackson? Yes. So if a family or if a student feels they need to be in that kind of space, I believe they're going to be set up. They're going to set up tables with those barriers.
Yvonne, what is your staffing looking like?
Thanks for asking. Actually, we're short. We have about, I want to say, 8 positions that are open, primarily at the high school. We could use probably 4 more. And then at the junior highs, my priority, I need 1 or 2 more at each of those. Baker, we're good. The elementaries, we have 1 manager and 4 employees, and we're doing okay with that. I prefer an additional employee each of those campuses, but the ones that have low enrollment probably will be okay. But LPE, they feed the most meals, and so that extra person, especially since they're practicing in the classroom can really use that extra hand. But we have openings, and we're trying to fill them. We went to a job, we have a job fair here just for support services, so we got about 6 names off of there. We reached out, but we haven't heard from them. So, but I'm hoping by school start, the first of school, we'll have probably at least 3 or 4 positions filled.
I have one comment, Yvonne. I mean, since March of 2020, your staff has gone above and beyond as far as delivering meals to our students, and I can't say how much, gratitude for the hard work and me and them coming up, even when everybody else was working remotely, coming up and delivering those meals. And I don't know how much to publicize it as far as the hard work you and your and we all here on this board appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you for the kind words. I will pass that message along to everyone.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Just want to say I appreciate the time that you're giving us to just present the plan, our updates, and you know, I kept saying as we talked, even after I printed this is just updates from, you know, things that we're reading and consulting with our lead nurse, Ms. Rife. So we just appreciate it. And you all know we talk about this a lot. This plan could change with guidance. One of the things that she sent me just a few moments ago, and I had this at the end of my presentation, I'll go ahead and tell you that, and you may already know this, the CDC has now made COVID-19 a communicable disease. And you're thinking, well, yeah, well, it's on their list, and it has some specific protocols, indeed, that have to be followed or recommended by CDC for isolation periods and things like that. So it's officially on the communicable disease list at this time. And that was as of just a couple of days ago. Okay, well, as you're aware, and that's why we're all here, our priority is to keep our staff and students as safe as possible, but also to have continuity as we can for instruction for our students. As you know, and presenting about accelerated learning, that's a very important task for us. So one of the things I wanted to tell you about our COVID-19 plan is we really have consulted with a lot of our nurse staff, our leadership team, including fine arts, athletics, and those are a lot of students who participate in those activities. So considering all that, as well as our large cabinet and our principals, we just wanted to just have this opportunity to talk to you about it. So I want to talk to you about some practices we're continuing from last year that we felt were successful. Number one is employees and students to screen daily before they come to work or school to make sure that they are not experiencing symptoms and that they're not ill and they're taking care of themselves. The second thing is our process maps, and we have them on the website. We have made a few changes to them, and I'll go over that in a minute. Not many, but just really looking at CDC guidance and what was working for our district. The one main change to the process map is exposure. And CDC and the health department talk a lot about prolonged exposure to COVID. And that would mean, for example, if someone's living in the home and is tested positive because of that prolonged exposure of being around them. We just feel like we still should be excluding people from the workplace as well as from school if that's the case. If someone at home has tested positive for COVID-19. We were doing that last year, but that's really what we're looking at. Looking at close contacts at school, that's certainly something we're going to continue to consider, but along with a lot of other districts as well as us, we did, and I've got some data for you. Like an example would be approximately 907 staff that were on protocol last year. Of that number, there were only 8 that were sent home because of a possible close contact, and then they ended up testing positive. While we can't just say it was because of that one exposure, that's the data. So sending a lot of people home, sometimes thinking about that, that may not be our best. So just looking at close contacts, but being reasonable and knowing sometimes people do spend a lot of time together. So we're looking at how we look at exposures next year a little differently. And again, that's after consulting with districts around us as well. The 2 scenarios on the process map that really don't change are the confirmed positive case. They'll isolate for the recommended time, and then symptomatic. People who are symptomatic, they can isolate, and they can either get an alternative diagnosis or they can seek a negative test. And so that's the same as last year's process maps. Another practice we're going to continue is the Cova Dashboard. We are only going to be updating at this moment, weekly. So looking at that piece, it's posted, it's in our parent portal. I looked at it earlier, and so we updated that on Monday. Another one is general notification letters, just still sending those out to campuses or departments that do experience a positive confirmed case. We are going to continue our Porte ISD testing program for students and staff. That was successful last year. We did hire some the nurses to come in and do that program for us. And so we did have requests for that again, and we're going to continue that practice. Let's see what else I was going to tell you. Just continuing to emphasize proper hand washing. and hand sanitizing when hand washing is not available, encouraging social distancing for next year again, and Mr. Marler talked about cleaning and disinfecting already. Let me see if there's anything else new for next year. Dr. Wadley touched on it, that the students are given attendance credit for in-person instruction only. We are still looking into the options for our employees, or if they do need to self-isolate due to the protocols. And so we're still looking at that guidance there and what maybe other districts are doing. Because last year we had the COVID days, the EPSL days, that were a federal program, I guess I should say, requirement. And now that we're not having virtual work, or kids at home, we're not having virtual work either. So just looking at our options still there, not making a formal decision. And I think that's it, besides the masking, that's strongly encouraged in the district just because of the close proximity of our students and our staff at all times with instruction, but certainly not at this time going to be required. Any questions?
Board, do you have any questions? I have one.
Yes, sir.
On the substitute training, how often do y'all conduct substitute training?
Thank you for asking that, and I even have that written right here. So I do want to tell you all, and it's right here, for new hire and substitute, we're going to train them on the COVID, and we do offer our substitute trainings at the beginning of the year. We have 3 training, well, actually, there's 6 trainings that are going to be offered at the beginning, but we offer them at least monthly, Mr. Yonda.
And I should know this question,
No,
answer
go
this
ahead.
question, but do y'all issue IDs to
It depends. If they're going to be on the campus long-term, we do have the ability to do that, is to issue the badges. And then I think that there are some things at the campus, and I don't want to speak for you all, where they have some access pieces they can give them, but not necessarily to every
Okay.
substitute. And one thing I didn't mention is when we train our staff and our substitutes, we're also going to train our students again on just COVID protocols.
Thank you.
Can I say, so, not a question, and this won't come out very well, I'm sure. But as I'm looking in the room, there's parents in here, there's concerned parents, right? And I'm a concerned parent. So I want to say this, is as I sit here, I'm cognizant of the fact that I won't call it possession, the most valuable thing in my life is and will always be my family, specifically my 2 sons and my wife. And I'm really protective of them, as I'm sure the majority of our 7,500 students are parents, and that is their prized possession in life, right? And so they're concerned, there's anxiety, there's all these things going on. And I just want to say thank you to, and I'm not saying this to say this, but from the top down, and the interactions on the board, we get to work with you guys behind the scenes and meet with you, not just in a public meeting where you're kind of coming in here and said, here's what we're doing, but I want the community to know all the hours and the prayer. The thing I appreciate most is the prayer that goes into it. But you guys, it's so readily evident in talking to you that it's not a job. This is a passion, and you guys have been thrown into an impossible position. We have 40,000 people in our town. You're going to get 20,000 different opinions on how to handle every single situation before COVID. And I'll throw this in the mix, and you guys are battling with this. And so, again, I just am so thankful that you guys are obviously taking it very seriously, but it's a fluid situation. You don't take hardline stances on this. For what it's worth, as a parent of a kindergartner and a 2nd grader, I feel confident in sending my kids to Porte ISD, right? And that's if you knew me, that's a big deal. And so I'm not saying that more specifically to some of the parents that are in the room right now, that it's not going to always be right. We're not going to have that correct answer every single time. But I hope you can find some solace and comfort in the fact that the people that are leading this district are doing their absolute best. They are seeking the advice of the experts. They will turn when they need to turn, right? And so we appreciate you guys, and again, the possible situation that you're in. Dr. Jackson, you have a pretty impressive staff, so I commend you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, that
Thank
was
you.
beautifully said, and I would just add to that, a parent told me yesterday how impressed they were with, the janitorial staff throughout all of last year and how much they cleaned, and when they were talking to parents at work that went to other schools, how those things weren't done, and teachers weren't cleaning in between classes and this and that. So, when you think about those things, we have very committed, as you said, passionate people about what they're doing. And, are we perfect? No. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. But the only thing we can do from a mistake is learn from it and try not to make it again and figure out how to move forward. So, but thanks for saying that, Jeff. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. We appreciate y'all's continued support and questions and, just working together to do what's best for our
Absolutely.
students and our staff, but we appreciate that. Thank y'all for letting me present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam?
First, thank you, Ms. Viator, for advancing the screen. I don't know that I could have found the right button. Good evening. Our communications plan is pretty much what it always has been, and that's to maintain. First and foremost, we want to ensure that everyone is in the constant know about our return to school. We do that through all calls. Snail mail, we've had 2 letters go out district-wide just in the past week. Website, social media, billboards. Hopefully you've seen the billboards on the billboard on 146. Our marquees, our campus marquees are a very valuable tool as well. Press releases, the newsletter, any way we can get the word out, we're getting the word out. And through those same channels, we're keeping stakeholders informed about our continual efforts toward health and safety. And finally, we have to, through all of this, maintain a normal communications workflow. Media services, digital and print content, basically being the 411 of LaPorte ISD. And that is our communications plan.
That's it in a nutshell, but there's a lot to that.
There is.
That's a lot of moving parts.
It is indeed. And if there's one thing we need, it's more hours in the day. So if y'all can provide that, it would be much appreciated. Maybe make it a 28-hour day, we could maybe do it. Any questions?
Good job. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam.
That is official. Well,
Is that the end of the reports?
well, thank you all. And hand it back to
So Mr. Grammer's going to come and load his presentation. He has a presentation, but I'd like to introduce 2 new administrators to our school district. And I forgot to do that at the end of my comments at the very beginning of the meeting. At this time, I certainly am proud to introduce to you, again, 2 of our newest members of the LaPorte ISD administrative team and family. Miss Stephanie Brown, would you please stand? Miss Stephanie Brown. Remain standing. Miss Stephanie Brown is the assistant principal of Lomax Junior High School. And Ms. Brown comes to us from Texas City ISD, where she most recently served as an assistant principal. She has 17 years of service in education. She earned a bachelor's degree from Stephen F. Austin State University and her master's degree from Lamar University. Welcome to LaPorte ISD, Stephanie. And our second and newest administrator is Dr. Ram Crespo. Please stand, sir. Let's give him a hand. Dr. Ram Crespo is the associate principal of Lomax Junior High. Dr. Crespo comes to us from Goose Creek ISD, where he has 23 years of experience in education. He earned a bachelor's degree from the University of Houston, a master's degree from the University of Houston, Victoria, and an educational doctorate from the University of Houston, Clear Lake. Please join me in welcoming these 2 wonderful administrators.
Okay? Yeah. Well, welcome both to LaPorte ISD. Just want to welcome y'all again. Thank you. And Mr. Grammer, on the district drug testing policy.
Good evening, everybody. Last time we talked about this, we said you wanted a little bit more information. So I've gathered that up. Some of this may be a little bit of a repeat, but I've tried to give you a real short, quick summary of where we're at on drug testing. And so let me just talk to you really quickly about this. First, I want to reiterate the purpose of our drug testing policy. Number 1 is to ensure the health and safety of students who represent the district in school-sponsored, competitive, extracurricular activities, and those that receive a permit to park on district property. It also serves as a deterrent to the use of illegal drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, and/or alcohol. And then finally, it's a credible means to resist peer pressure. Now, I think it's important to note that in this drug testing policy, it is not academically punitive. In other words, a student will not suffer consequences like in-school suspension, those kind of things based on the drug testing. All the consequences deal directly with whether they're parking on campus or any extracurricular activity they're involved in. So here are the results from this year. Our testing was down some this year, obviously, because we didn't have everyone in school, and we missed some tests, obviously, as well. But the positivity rate was 5%. So 5% of the students who tested positive. The multiple positivity rate, and that means any students who tested positive are automatically retested. The number of retesters who tested positive was less than 1%. And then we had less than 1% of our students who were called to test refused to test. Now, understand that if you refuse to test, that's treated as a failure. And then one of the concerns you guys had was talking about how many students have multiple tests. I will tell you that 60 students were tested more than one time. Most of those were 2, had a couple that were tested 3 times. I think that was the most I saw in there, but there were 60 students that were tested more than once. So I want to talk to you quickly about the consequences that the sanctions for positive tests. So the first offense is a parent notification, a parent conference. Then we have district-approved substance abuse counseling that takes place on campus with our counselors, not our academic counselors, but our other counselors. Suspension from school-sponsored competitive extracurricular activities and/or parking for not less than 10 days. Now, the administrator can allow the student to practice. So if it happened to be a band student, they can continue to practice. They just can't participate on Friday night or in any contest. And they would retest for 1 calendar year. A second positive test is much like the first. It's a parent notification, a parent conference, the counseling, suspension for 30 days. Again, practice is permissible, and again, we test for an additional year.
What does that equate to?
Is that every month?
They test, I couldn't tell you the exact spacing between the tests they notify us. Generally, they test 9 times in a year. It's about a month, but it could be a little more, a little less.
So anytime there's a test, they'll retest.
They'll be
for
called
that
to
whole time?
retest, yes.
Every time?
Yes.
If they're positive.
If they go a year without another positive test, then they fall back into the random category. And then the third offense, again, is very similar, except where you see the difference is suspension from school-sponsored competitive extracurricular activities and parking for 1 calendar year. And then on the fourth positive, again, we have the first 3 things, the notification, parent conference, the counseling, but then you have suspension for the remainder of their high school career from the following: all extracurricular activities, including but not limited to athletics, cheerleading, band, choir, dance, UIL sanctioned academic programs, journalism. I'm not going to finish the list, but basically any kind of extracurricular activity that they're suspended from. And then obviously we wouldn't retest after that point because they're not participating in anything at that point from now. So that is really quickly just a summary of our testing. I know some of the concerns were about student retesting, and so
Do you mind going back?
No.
The third, just for a moment, and just let me.
How far back do you want to go?
Up to the first offense. Yeah. Okay, that's all I need. Okay, thank you.
So we talked about students being tested multiple times. Because it's random, we really have no control over that. And like I believe Chris addressed at the last meeting, that if you were, I know some districts in the past have removed kids from testing. So if they tested negative in the fall, then they wouldn't test them the rest of the semester. But that actually takes the randomness out of it. And so then you're not random drug testing at that point because you've removed people from the pool. And so there's really not a lot we can do about that. The time that it takes out of a school day, short of reducing the number of students who test, it's really hard to get that any quicker. We have to go get the kids. We have to escort them to a remote location so that they can test. We find a place where there are bathrooms available, and so that it's not disruptive to the rest of the instruction that's going on. So, I'd love to tell you we can shorten that and not testing the last student, but I can't make that promise. It's just, it's a tedious activity when it happens, and it takes my principals at least a half day to get that done.
How many kids are you doing?
We reduced last year from 100 to 50 because of the amount of time, and so we were testing 50. They send us a list of 50. Now, some kids are not.
Go back to 100 this year?
That's not our plan. My plan was to stay at 50.
How many other school districts are doing this?
So I couldn't give you a number. I called 6 or 7 districts that actually answered the phone during the summer and talked to me. About half, probably a little more than half, are testing. I talked to 3 districts, I believe. 3 districts out of the 7 I talked to, so it'd be 4 out of the 7 I talked to are testing some sort. And they have, their consequences may vary from ours. They have different practices. One district that does not test, they just ended theirs, but they left in there that if they see a need, they'll resume it. So they left it in policy, but only if it's needed. And then I talked to a couple of districts who are not testing at all.
And what was their reason for not testing?
One was a new superintendent, and he said, I don't know why we don't test, I just know we haven't tested. He hadn't been there long enough to actually know. I think a district out in West Texas that I knew, a deputy superintendent with, said I think it became such a big deal that they backed out of it. And then another district very close to us, just, I think they had a policy and they've talked about it at some point, or they've looked at a policy, but they've never established and just haven't followed through. They're not testing.
This is probably not a fair question, but especially since you were doing this during the summer, but out of curiosity, surely some of your staff knew that you were compiling this information for us. I'm assuming so. Were there any general comments as far as your staff? Is it like, do they think it's useful? Is it wasting their time and everybody else? Did you get any comments like that?
I didn't get any comments that was wasting their time. They will tell you that it is a challenging process. It takes my security guards, it takes my assistant principals, and that's just the way it is when you've got to gather those kids and move them.
Do you feel like that they feel positive about the system, about the process?
You know, I honestly, I didn't talk to them that deeply about it.
Okay.
And you know this, my staff is, tell us what we got to do and we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we're not going to complain, we're just going to do it.
I just wondered if they had a general opinion, if you got a feeling for that.
Yeah. I think we all realize, and I'm not going to speak for them, but I can tell you just for myself, we all realize that there are drug issues in LaPorte, there are drug issues in every city in this state, and every city in this nation. And so if we can deter that a little bit and make one kid make a different decision, you know, it makes what we're doing at least somewhat worthwhile. I will tell you, when I first saw our policy here, when I came around, you know, one of the things that jumped out at me was the first 3 tests. So let's say a student was participating in something in the fall and they tested in February and they weren't participating in anything. They really don't miss out on anything. It's 10-day suspension, maybe parking, but that's about it. But then I looked at our results when I actually got into the numbers, and I see a positivity rate of 5% to start, and then multiple positivity rate of less than 1%. That seems to point to me that it's having an impact. When they're testing positive and then we go back and retest and they're not testing, you know, either, I mean, let's be honest, either they've gotten really good at hiding it, or they were, you know what I mean, or they were absent the time that we retested. But that seems to indicate that maybe we're having some kind of an impact.
Well, I do like the fact that apparently we may be in the minority of people that are doing it, so I'm surprised, really.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks that adopted this, but they're, you know, I mean, it's you get all kinds of different opinions about it. It's more difficult in the smaller schools. I would dare say probably do this more because it's much easier to control. I did this in my first high school. We grabbed 25 kids. I walk them 20 feet to the administration building. In 2 hours, we're done and we're back in class and we don't miss it. It's a challenge in a bigger school, quite frankly. Yes, sir.
On the test, does it show positive, delete, and negative?
Say that again.
Positive, delete, and negative?
You got delete.
Okay,
It shows
so,
positive or negative.
okay, so,
And then
test
the
that I'm talking about, say you have to go take a test, but you're hot. You go, you drink a lot of water, You pass it through the kidney for your bladder, and then when you get where you have to go again, you go to the bathroom, and it's the dilute sample. is what it's called.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've ever got that. In fact, all they tell us is positive. We don't even get a negative. They call us and say, these students tested positive.
You don't get the negative.
No, but he sends that to me. He sends me the positive, and that's all I see.
Thank you for putting this all together for us.
Sure. Any other questions that I can help you with? All right. Thank you all very much.
We'll go to item D, in district transfer policy. Wait, thank you. Hold on. Thank you. Mr. Gr-
Real quick, so we hold our students 50% with goods. How about our staff? Do you have staff that does your analysis also?
I would concede the
Anybody
HR.
who's not you. Okay, besides DOT, do we test our staff?
Besides DOT,
Yeah, besides DOT, we're any of our other staff.
our white fleet is not under DOT.
I'm sorry?
Our white fleet is not under DOT.
It's not?
No, that is the district policy
Oh, okay.
to do that.
Wow.
Non-bus driver, white fleet is under safety sensitive, yes, because they drive it and they do that. That's not through DOT, just bus drivers.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey.
I really wanted the clicker, but I found the button. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present and share information with you tonight regarding LaPorte ISD transfers. We have 3 policies that govern our transfers here in the district: policy FD, FDA, and FDB. Our non-residents adhere to policies FD and FDA, and then our residents adhere to policy FDB. Policy FD looks at our students who have grandparents who reside in the school district, but they are non-residents, so they reside outside of the boundaries of LaPorte ISD. And so we offer through policy FD transfers for those students. Also through policy FDA, we have non-resident transfers, and we have those for parents who may live outside of LaPorte ISD boundaries but would like to attend LaPorte ISD schools. We have a lot of industry parents who apply for our school district. Parents who work in other jobs throughout the school boundaries are also parents who apply for the program. And then we have transfer requests for residents. And so that would be school-to-school transfers for students who actually reside in the boundaries of LaPorte ISD. When we think about our non-residents, policy FD again addresses our grandparents who provide a substantial amount of after-school care for their grandkids who reside outside of our attendance zone. Then the grandparents and the parent, as long as the grandparent can establish residency, they are allowed to apply, and we shall offer those as space permits and as we're able to accommodate and support those families. And we have probably on average between Ms. Tilly and I, we probably have about 3. We average about 3 of those per year. So we have a lot of families in LaPorte who have grandparents who live in LaPorte, but so that then changes because these are non-resident students entering our school district as grandkids of their grandparents. Does that make sometimes we have grandparents who pick up their students. For example, if I live in the Bayshore zone and my grandkids attend Lomax, but I'd like for them to go to Bayshore, this policy does not address that because this is for non-resident students. When we talk about our next section, we're talking about open enrollment transfers, and policy FDA governs this transfer request. We only apply open enrollment transfers to students in pre-kindergarten through 12th, in kindergarten through 12th grade. Pre-kindergarten students do not qualify for open enrollment transfers, so they cannot transfer from outside of the district into our district in the pre-kindergarten program. And that is a state protection across the state, so we're not just secluding students from LaPorte ISD in pre-K. We also offer under this policy semester transfers. And so a student who starts with us in either the fall or the spring semester, if they become a non-resident during that semester, our policy states that we shall allow them to continue for that semester. However, because we're doing great things here in LaPorte, we have lots of parents who ask for the continuation throughout the end of the school year because they don't want to move their students in the middle of the school year or transfer their student to another area if they're able to facilitate getting them to school on time and then picking them up after school. Our next area that we offer open enrollment would be for students who have completed their junior year in LaPorte ISD as residents, but over the summer they become non-residents. We do allow them to complete their senior year with us so that they can complete their schooling here in LaPorte ISD. So that's another policy governance for our junior students at the high school level. Next, we'd like to look at our students who are non-residents, whose parent or guardians purchase or lease a home within our LaPorte ISD boundaries. Within 90 days, they plan on moving into that location. We do grant them transfer into the school district. We have lots of parents we have lots of new neighborhoods, so we're very excited to see the growth that's potentially happening in our district. And so as parents purchase those homes, they get the contracts, they give them a date that they're expected to move in, and we certainly want to bring them into our school district. And I agree too, as a parent and as an educator, we don't want children moving throughout the course of the school year. If we can start them here before October, we certainly try to get them in. And this is, again, I'm residing outside of LaPorte ISD, but I plan on moving within 90 days. And we can show that proof through a contract.
For people that are moving into that new subdivision and maybe their house isn't going to be ready for September, October, that would apply for that.
Yes, and also the neighborhood, when we built Bayshore Elementary, the neighborhood right behind, they just showed us the contract and we were able to allow them to attend Bayshore, LaPorte Junior High, and then our high school prior to moving, physically moving into the communities. So we'll probably have a lot of that going on as we continue to build throughout our area. Okay, and then another area that we look at transfers, we don't currently have this going on in our school district, but if we were to serve with the cooperative, for example, if we offer the deaf education program here in LaPorte ISD, this is just an example, and students from outside of LaPorte were allowed to come to this district, then we could allow that to happen. But we don't currently have that system set up here in LaPorte. But it's just in our policy in case we do. Okay, our next area would be, of course, our open enrollment requests. So again, any non-resident in LaPorte can request for open enrollment. When we think about this, each year we ask them to complete the application process, and then they also must turn that into the campus that they're interested in attending. We do find, however, sometimes because of class sizes, we are unable to grant that particular school, but parents want in, and we can offer maybe a closer school to maybe where they're working or a different school, and we certainly try to get them in to a school where we don't have class size limits that might be of question.
Ms. Whitaker, I have a question on that first bullet point.
Yes, sir.
What's once they're accepted into the school district, what's the rationale of them having to file each school year for an application transfer as opposed to once they're in, they're at a particular campus that we have accepted them and letting them go up the feeder pattern to the Porte ISD?
So one of the statements that I made had to do with class size. So every year during the spring semester, we work in conjunction with our CFO, work with the business office, our superintendent, and we prepare for enrollment projections, staffing projections, et cetera. And so as we look at that, and I have a little later in the presentation, I'll also address that as well, but we look at class size limits, and sometimes we have these new communities coming on board, and we want to ensure that our current residents have an opportunity to attend their school, which, like you said, maybe feeder school, neighborhood school, and so we're not asking these residents to move to a different school outside of their attendance zone.
It does, but since we, but
Because
not
in
as,
essence,
I was gonna say, and I have it later on in the slides too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you may
Go ahead.
certainly will be able to answer this more
Mhm.
articulately than I. But in essence, following this policy, sometimes if we allow the kid that transfer to a school, the parents that built a home right across the street from that school, their children don't have an opportunity to go to that class because they're already
The class
class
size.
limited, am I correct?
That is correct, and it's
And so
happened
you wanna
already
make certain
in
that
Morgan's
people
Landing.
That
Mhm.
are already zoned, and I get it, you want to be able to kind of accommodate everybody.
Yes, sir.
But if there may be times where the children that are already naturally zoned to, this is their home school,
Mhm.
are bumped out due to class size because other transfers are
Mhm.
taking the state.
And it kind of goes back to like Ms. Thompson referenced earlier as well. If I know I'm moving into that neighborhood, maybe not at the start of the school year, but we know we're coming in October, we want to give that student who resides within that attendance zone the precedent to attend the school because they documented, you know, that they provided a lease or they provided some type of contract to let us know that they are moving. And unfortunately, Mr. Yonda, I received calls on both sides. I received a call from the parent who just purchased a $300,000 home and says, I would like to attend my neighborhood school, but unfortunately we have class limits in place. And then I also get the other side where parents are requesting, they've been working with the school, they know the staff, the students are comfortable, but they also want to go to the school. And so you know, we try our best, and I will tell you, I've the night before school started, because I like to see students placed, I will stay in my office and I will call parents and tell them, hey, we've had a withdrawal at this school, go ahead and bring your child over. And we just want that continuity for all of our
you're
students.
speaking of class limits, are you talking about the 22 to 1 ratio? Because I thought we had the district of innovation.
We do, and so we have a lot of students who do, and we try our best to stay within our District of Innovation plan, and we do have that, looking at that 23, 25 to 1, but that's a lot of children in the classroom, and so certainly we know that our students, we have some gaps that we need to fill that are coming up, and so we're trying to keep our ratios down to support that academic growth as well, and so we do look at that when we're making those decisions.
I'm just, you know, just trying to look at ways, you know, because we're always saying we want to grow our student population here at the Porte ISD, and I'm just seeing as an incentive for people to choose the Porte ISD, not to necessarily, you know, take over advantage of our current residents, but just, yeah.
I can tell you about last year. Maybe about 10 to 12 students per year. And I really noticed that, I talked with Ms. Whedon, actually we talked about this because the new neighborhood Morgan's Landing is split between Lomax and Jenny Reed Elementary. And so we did have some parents in that neighborhood that wanted to go to their school. And unfortunately, Jenny Reed, today I can stand before you and tell you right now they are already in first grade at a 23 to 1 ratio. And we have not started school, and we've not seen the big push yet for enrollment in our school district. So we already know that's a hot spot that we'll have to address, you know, now, you know, as we move forward.
I have one more, do you mind, one more question on that, since
Sure.
speaking of Morgan's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
All of that whole neighborhood is zoned to LaPorte Junior High?
Morgan's Landing, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm.
And-
Junior high.
And they were able to take, as far as capacity, the whole neighborhood?
Yes.
And that could be completely built out? Okay. Sorry, Chris.
Well, do we need to look at staff and expanding some of the schools? The growth?
So when we look at enrollment projections, we usually do that, like I said, in the spring semester, and we make projections and moves. We've worked with the business office to add student teachers when we see that the number will increase. And when the numbers go down, we have this year moved some teachers off of a campus in order to accommodate the number of students who unfortunately are no longer with us. So we do look at moving them up as well, and the board supports us, because usually after Labor Day, some years I'll have to come before you and ask for an additional teacher to accommodate some of that large growth in a particular grade level. And we don't know where it comes from sometimes, but sometimes it's second grade, sometimes it's fourth grade, sometimes it's pre-K. And so we never really know, but we certainly try really hard to accommodate that.
I want to just add, as you're going through,
Sure.
you're doing a great job with explaining all of this. But one of the things that I want to also just kind of, not caution, but just bring to the table is we also, in addition to trying to meet the needs of all of these parents and students that are having these requests for transfers and what have you, we also are trying to make certain that we keep a balance across the district. I've worked in a district where this happened a lot and there was a lot of back and forth. We don't have a lot of that here. I mean, 12 or 13, 14 kids a year, that's not something that we can't handle. But what I want to make certain of is last year we had a significant dip in our enrollment. I do not anticipate that this year. I'm being really optimistic about all of that coming back and we're going to be fine. But what you don't want is you don't want an elementary school with 500 kids and then an elementary school with 250. That's very unbalanced, and the district is unbalanced, and where teachers are, and then we start having to really float teachers a whole lot more.
Yes, sir.
Because folks that have been in the campus for 30 years, 20 years, may have to go to a whole other campus across town because you've lost 100 kids over the course of that. So we have to follow the trends of where the homes are being built also in addition to that. So I appreciate you really taking the time to share that.
Mhm.
Joel,
And
as you and David are talking, I don't know what this says about it, doesn't say anything good about me, but I kept thinking about, transfers. How do we steal or cherry pick people maybe from Deer Park, for example? So this is more a question for Adam.
Deer Park,
I
okay.
guess it goes back to advertising, right?
Alrighty,
How do
okay.
I know, Adam, we had the billboard on 146, but what are we doing to advertise outside of LaPorte? Because it was up to Jeff Martin, we'd have billboards all down Center Street.
Along with your part.
But no, I'm jokingly, what are we advertising in say Clear Lake or our neighboring communities?
Yeah. So Adam and I are looking at each other because we both are laughing because back in the spring, we sent out 10,000, I don't know how many, cards talking about, the wonderful things that are going on in LaPorte, and we went as far as we could go ethically to the edges of our boundaries. And you can rest assured, I got some phone calls from some friends that said, what are you doing sending something to my neighborhoods, right? So we went as far as we could boundary-wise, but we are aggressive in our approach to asking folks to come.
And to LaPorte.
And Joel, I have one other question. Where, is there anywhere that whether the criteria of the transfers or even this bullet point that you're presenting available to the public? Is it on our website? Is it?
Yes, sir. I have that too, but
Or a form of a
it's no problem, no
transfer
problem. The transfer form, and I have that later on in the presentation as well, but the transfer forms were placed on the district's website, as well as the campuses received the transfer forms. And each time the parent filled out the transfer request, the front of the transfer has all of the guidelines there, and the parent signs that they've read those guidelines and they know about them up front. And then they complete the fill in the application process. That's okay.
Is under the parent tab?
Yes, it was on in the parent portal. Yes, sir. And I do want to share with you.
And I mean, go back and forth, because the reason why on that top bullet point, because just speaking of Deer Park, because all these report, parents that fill out transfers, instead of these Deer Park ISD, once they fill them out, they go through that feeder pattern. They don't have to apply again. So that's why I was trying to see, that's why I was asking on our end.
Okay.
That's the reason why I was asking about that.
We certainly can take a look at that, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you.
And Mr. Martin, in answer to your question here, I do have, as of today, we did receive some more in our office today, Danette and I have to sign them, but as of today, we have 71 open enrollment transfers for elementary grades, and that's, again, kindergarten through 5th grade would be elementary, and at the secondary level, we're at a total from 6th through 12th grade of 70 students who have been approved for transfer into our school district, and those are parents who've applied.
So how does that compare to the prior years? Is that pretty normal?
That at the elementary level, that is definitely pretty normal. It's a little down, maybe about 25 students from last school year. In prior years, about 25. And I will tell you, Ms. Thompson, they continue to flow in every day. And like I said, there are a few on our desk today. We share the same secretary, and she's like, y'all have more. So we'll process those tomorrow. Did that answer your transfer?
There's a delicate dance that I think you're talking about between making sure the teacher has enough time for each student as far as when you're talking about class size, and then accommodating people that we want. We want and need more students in our district, obviously, to experience all of the things that are going on here. So there's this dance, and I don't envy y'all what you have to do between all of that. My broader concern, or my bigger concern about transfers, is more about the next policy we get to.
Sure.
So
Okay.
when we get there, I'll ask you something about that.
Oh, no
But,
problem.
I mean, I applaud y'all for what you're doing, because I know it's hard to do, and to do it in a way that we can still retain that student so that we don't lose them. The customer service smile goes a long way in, and why this has to happen, or we have to move you to this or that or whatever. But I would hope that there won't be many, so that we can keep them within our district.
And Dr. Jackson, you actually, I'm going to move on here, took the words out of my mouth, but in our next section here, we do take a look at, when we're thinking about open enrollment, we do ask for the parent to complete the application each school year. We do consider availability of space and instructional staff. The student's disciplinary history and their attendance records are submitted as well. And so once we have that information from the parent, then between our campus principals and the executive directors, we're able to approve or deny at that time.
And Ms. Thompson brings up a very good point about the delicate dance that we all do at the time. But in your office, and I've spoken to a lot of parents in my office about this. The other part of that is, it is our job, and it's all our job, certainly administration's job and the board's job, to protect the integrity of the reputation of all of our campuses. And so we don't want to send a message that this campus, it's the Taj Mahal, and the kid's only going to be successful because they're going there versus the neighborhood school. And so it's a delicate balance that we have to have. Not that we're saying you're going to be denied for that reason, but we also don't want to open the doors and just allow everybody to rush out and feel like this is the place we want to go now. And so she's been through a lot, and I've watched that now over the last year I've been there. And we handle it well. But we also want to make certain we send a very strong message that every last one of those elementary schools and secondary schools are exemplary schools in their own right.
Okay, and now moving to policy FDB, which is known as our intradistrict transfers, and this is when we have residents who transfer from school to school within LaPorte ISD. And this applies to, now we'll add pre-kindergarten through 12th grade. And so, at the 6th grade level, we only have one school. So at the secondary level in 7th and 8th grade is when there could be some potentials for transfers, and then all of the elementaries within the 7 schools can transfer. This policy does indicate that our students shall attend the school assigned to them based on their attendance area and where they reside. And so we do have 7 elementary campuses. Bayshore, Heritage, and Rizzuto Elementary support our bilingual students, and we have a larger population of students attending Heritage Elementary in the bilingual program.
What's that new bilingual term that we're going to use today?
I knew you were emergent bilingual.
What is that?
Emergent. So in the past, we've had, yes, ma'am. So in the past, we've had LEP students. They were limited emergent. Like they are beginning, they're on the cusp of, right, yeah. They're on the cusp of learning, yes. So we've had, and I know this has nothing, but we've had LEP, so we all remember limited English proficient students. Then we moved to ELs, which were English learners. Well, at first it was ELL, then they dropped the other L and went to EL. Now we're at emergent biliterate students. It continues to change. So again, the students are required to attend school in their attendance zone based on this policy, and then transfers are granted based on our policy here for 1 year at a time. And again, it's in policy, Mr. Yonda, and so we try to follow at all times what we have in policy for us. You had asked about our application process. So the deadline to apply for school-to-school transfers per board policy is always May 1st of a school year. However, in meeting with Dr. Jackson this year and working with our team, we did extend that because we knew COVID was going on. We knew parents may or may not, feel comfortable coming up to the school. So we did extend that and offer grace to those families so that they could get that in this school year. It is posted on our website, and after the due date this year, I believe was 2 weeks after this, when we then take it down from at that point. The open enrollment application stays on. It is still on there, and we, like I said, we continue to get them, so we look forward to seeing these numbers grow.
Who makes the decision on that one?
The campus principals and the 2 executive directors, either Ms. Tiller or myself. Mhm.
I'd like to, if it's for 1 year, like, is there a high likelihood that if so it's a third grader, he or she gets in as a third grader, they got to reapply the next year, are they pretty likely to get granted access again, or do they get like precedence, I guess?
Yes, we do. And like I said, because we start in the spring, and our campus principals will tell you, some of you may have students who attend our schools, but they send out in the spring a small letter that just asks parents, are you coming back? Are you planning on coming back? Because that helps us set our budget. You guys approved the budget in June, the positions that we have. So if we're in need of positions, all of that comes out during that spring semester prior to the start of a school year so that we're able to staff. We want to recruit the best teachers into our district, and so that information is invaluable to a principal. Now, I'm not for sure that you guys do that at secondary level, but we certainly take care of that at the elementary because of those class size limits. And so we have a pretty nice projection moving into the summer of where our enrollment will look like. Now, of course, parents do move over the summer, but we try to keep up with those as well.
You don't have to stay at 22.
No.
You can be right on it.
Mhm. And when we talk about our in-district transfers, which would be our school-to-school transfers, at the elementary level, we certainly try to accommodate our parents, but we want to give those students who are in special programs transfers because we don't offer all special programs on all campuses. And so Ms. Anderson and her team have done a great job of placing programs to support our students and to support those families on various elementary campuses. And then we look at, of course, like I mentioned earlier, our bilingual programs. So any other transfer would be a transfer that would be our fourth graders. They've been at the school all year long, all of their years, and they're moving into fifth grade. It's kind of like when we have in policy for those juniors, if you will, I equated it to that, who are wanting to complete that senior year in the Porte ISD because it's been so great. We want to make sure that those kids finish out their elementary year in fifth grade, and that as well is something that we try to do as well. We sometimes don't consider, and I know it's very tough, being a mom myself, we have some daycares that will pick up at certain campuses. And so this is another hot button for some of our parents. If they like a daycare, they typically don't want to move their students, so that after school care, and I'm just gonna pick, if they're after school care at, High Achievers right there on Spencer, they don't go to all of our elementaries. So the parent would either have to move their daycare for after school support, or they sometimes will ask for a transfer to one of the schools where the daycare picks up. The problem again could be that our enrollment is already large in certain grades, and so there may not be room. Not that we want to be insensitive to anyone, and again, like I did share with you guys, the day before school starts, the hour before meet the teacher night, I will make a call if we have availability to help support those families, and then try really hard. So there will be some late nights that I stay in right before the day before school starts, but we make sure our kids are where they need to be. And then again, when we think about it, just kind of like our other factors, policy governs that we look at the availability of space and instructional staff, the students' disciplinary history, and their attendance records. And so sometimes when parents ask for transfers from campus to campus, wanted to also share with you guys that transportation is not provided. So they must provide their own transportation to and from. And sometimes we've had occasions where attendance becomes a problem, it's tardies. sometimes become a problem if they're trying to get through different school zones. I remember starting in the district and we could get from College Park to the administration building in less than 10 minutes, and now it takes you almost 30 minutes during a busy day to get across town. And so sometimes we do run into that, but we certainly work with La Teresa Wilson, our attendance officer, and then the families. Then the last transfer that we have is our overflow transfer. And so what this basically is when we do have spots, if you will, that are hot spots. For example, I've shared with you today, Jenny Reed Elementary, we're already at a 1-to-23 ratio in all of their first grade classrooms. Sometimes I do have to overflow students. They may get to the point where there's 2 kids that's just, where it's 25 in each classroom and 26 may just take them over the edge. And so we want to provide all of our students with the necessary resources that they need. And so I would create an overflow for that student. We try to keep our overflows in close proximity. So for example, Jenny Reed to Rizzuto, they're close together. Heritage to College Park. Lomax Elementary to either Heritage or to LaPorte Elementary. We try our best to try to keep them together working with transportation. When this happens, the district must provide transportation or shall provide that transportation to the student. The parents typically will call me up and say, hey, Ms. Whitfield, if there's any way possible throughout the year, can my kid go back to the home campus? Because again, they want to go to their schools that are their neighborhood schools. And so we work with our principals, the attendance clerks, the registrars. I mean, I even put it on my Outlook calendar. Check on, if it was Mr. Yonda, check on Mr. Yonda's student and see if there's any room on September 18th, just so I can go back and give that parent that customer service that we're talking about, and they're able to make those adjustments. We'll allow them to go back to their campuses. The following year, however, like you stated, Mr. Martin, there are some parents that just say, oh, I fell in love with the school. I really would like to stay. And so at that point, we work with our principal. We look at the enrollment projections. We look at that number and see if it's there. I believe for the most part, parents make the determination based on if they really need that transportation or not, because we offered for you when we had to overflow you, but each year we have a duty to try to get you back to your home campus. And so if we're able to make that happen, then the transportation is not required by the state anymore. And I will tell you, sometimes they are special routes. For example, if there's a student at the Bayshore zone and they need to get to Rizzuto, that's a special bus route that Mr. Marler has to add for us to accommodate that. So just please keep in mind that that's a lot of the reason too why we try to get them back. I definitely don't want elementary students on buses longer than they have to be. So long bus rides can be a problem sometimes as well. So that's that overflow. You might hear some parents say, well, I saw this student in the neighborhood go to this school. Well, it could be that they were on overflow transfer. Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Go to item E, official star/EOC results. Before lunch, go ahead and take a 5-minute break. That's why you're that's okay?
Awesome.
had returned back from our 5-minute recess, and so, and we'll turn to item 8E, official star/EOC results.
Okay, good evening again.
Good evening.
So the good news is that since I presented in June, when the preliminary scores, really, most everything is exactly the same. There are two little +1 changes on a couple of tests that I'll show you here in a moment. In June, we didn't have state scores, so I presented Laporte 2019 to Laporte 2020. Tonight, I'm comparing state 2021, Laporte ISD 2021. Also, as a reminder, the results are intended for student learning and recovery only, and there will be no school or district ratings this year. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. Okay. We'll look first at STAR grades 3 through 8, specifically in reading. One additional thing that Ms. Green added for me as she was helping me prepare this were the participation rates. And I think I mentioned this in June. We had very strong participation rates. So in this first column, you'll see, this is how you'll read it. This is STAR reading, grades 3 through 5. In grade 3, we had a 98% participation rate compared to 90% at the state. And then if you look across at approaches, you remember that's passing, 80% pass to the state 66. Meets grade level, you're performing at an even higher level, 44% to the state's 38. And then masters, which is the highest level that a student can achieve, we were 20% over the state's 19. So that's how you can read this chart. Grade 4, 98% participation rate, 75 approaches, 43 meets, 20 masters. And then in reading at 5th grade, 98%, 86 approaches, 62 meets, and 41 masters.
We beat the state on that whole page.
We sure did. And the one where there was an increase is grade 3 at meets. In June, it was 43. And what Jennifer and I were talking about, this does include Spanish. We do have some Spanish takers, very, very small, in grades 3 through 5, and that could have attributed to it. Okay. Moving to STAR reading, grades 6 through 8. I'm just going to kind of go down. As you just kind of scan the participation, you can see at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we had very high participation compared to the state. At 6th grade, we were above the state at approaches. We were above the state in 7th grade, and we were above the state in 8th grade at the approaches grade level. Moving right along to STAR math, grades 3 through 5. Again, our participation rate was quite high, and we did surpass the state at approaches, meets, and masters at all 3 grade levels. Oh, nope, I lied. Third grade at masters. 3rd grade at masters. Close. And then we had one other addition, and that was in 5th grade, masters. In June, it was 37 and it's 38 officially. Okay. Moving on, 6 through 8 math. Now this is interesting. Our participation rate still is quite a bit higher than the state, but we thought it was interesting that when we got to 7th and 8th grade, it dropped at the state level down into the 70s. So we don't know why, but our participation rate was obviously very high. At 6th grade, we did outperform the state at approaches, meets, and masters. We did lag behind in 7th grade, and in 8th grade, we were above the state at approaches, meets, but didn't quite get there at the master's level. And for 7th grade, just as a reminder, our advanced students do not, in 7th grade, don't take the 7th grade test, they take the 8th grade test. So, but overall, across the state, 7th graders struggled. Moving on. Writing, star writing, again, very high participation rates, scored above the state in 4th grade, across approaches, meets, and masters, in 7th grade, approaches and approaches. Close in meets and sort of close in masters. I did share with you last time, but I'll remind you again, this school year, there will not be a standalone test in grades 4 and 7 writing. And in 22, 23, writing will be incorporated into the grades, into grades 3 through 8 reading. Moving on, science. Again, our participation rate very high, and we performed above the state at approaches, meets, and masters in grade 5 and grade 8. 8th grade social studies. High participation rate at 98% compared to the state's 82%, and we surpassed the state at approaches, meets, and masters.
Oh, this makes me so happy.
I know, it's exciting. Still we have a lot of work to do, but yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, STAR end of course. So the participation rates at the state were a little higher, but as a reminder, the state did not waive any graduation requirements, so students still had to pass the STAR test. Now, there was some flexibility with the individual graduation committees, but nonetheless, they still had to pass. English 1 and 2, we did not meet the state marks. We do know that an area that we really need to focus on is the composition, and but we're prepared to do that. So we know where our area is, and we will certainly tackle that. And then moving to the last 3 tests, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History, surpassed in participation rate. You can see that we are a little behind the state in Algebra 1. We did surpass the state at approaches in biology, and for U.S. history, we surpassed the state at approaches, meets, and masters. And then, moving forward, next steps, we've talked a little bit about this through our RSSP, but without a doubt, we shall formalize acceleration plans for the students that did not pass STAR, any STAR, and that is a requirement from House Bill 4545. But as I have shared with you throughout the spring and into the summer, we really are committed to strengthening our foundation, our foundational curriculum, our Tier 1. We believe we want our students to learn in the classroom from the get-go, and we are prepared to do that. You all have blessed us with the opportunity to build an instructional coaching team and to add Julie Abrams, who is just doing an outstanding job leading the charge with that fantastic group of coaches. They spent the summer working with teachers, identifying priority standards. We're going to teach all of the standards, but the priority standards are those that they're like the power standards that we really want our kids to learn. We will be implementing just-in-time interventions. And basically what that means is that we are going to, for every unit of study, we are going to identify the prerequisite skills, those really important skills that the kids need to be successful. We're going to pre-assess kids to determine if they know them or if they don't know them. And then we're going to be working with students to embed those supports. We've been doing lots of training on it. Our coaches actually got, we've been studying it. They got trained today. We'll be turning the training around to principals and teachers, and it will be an ongoing process throughout the school year. But we are very committed. Our coaches are stoked about it. We want to focus on instruction that promotes acceleration, and what that means, it means having engaging activities, high-impact vocabulary development, really focusing on the process standards. And this is just a highlight, but we've really got some great work going, and I look forward to sharing those successes with you throughout the year. And that's what I have.
Board, do you have any questions for Dr. Wallace?
So I know you said that, sorry, I have like
No.
one question.
Of course.
There's no ratings this year, right? And
Correct.
I know, and I don't want to minimize it. I think it's amazing that our district has exceeded in many different levels the state, and that's huge. And that's a testament to the teachers and staff. But compared to other years, at our last meeting, did you say we are somewhat down? I guess probably because of COVID, right? If we were to receive a letter grade, and was the last one that we received, was it a B minus?
It was a B.
B?
Yes,
So
I
how would
think.
this, I don't know if you can answer that. How would this, like, if they were to give us a letter grade, where would we be at?
I couldn't even tell you, Mr. Martin, because the letter grades come from 3 different domains. So like domain 1, and I'm just talking off the cuff now, that's kind of data. I mean, there's a lot of data that goes into it. Yeah. It's not just the STAR scores. They look at growth, they look at relative progress. There's domain 3, closing the gaps, and CCMR. So there are so many variables that go into it. So I couldn't even begin to guess on
I guess
that.
what I'm getting at, I come from like the sales guy, right? And a lot of like the high commission earners, they always kind of have to factor in a down year. Like they hit their peak and they had a reset year, if you will.
Right.
And I kind of view this COVID year as a reset year, and I understand that. Again, not minimizing that. But I guess my request is that next year when we come and talk about this, can we get the analysis on like the pre-COVID numbers just to see how we're tracking? Because I mean, hopefully we're going to improve off 2020, right?
Sure.
I mean that's the expectation. But my bigger expectation or hope is that we improve on the 2019 numbers.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And it is interesting. Ms. Green gave me a statewide analysis of 2019 versus 2021. And I know you can't read it, but you can probably see the colors in here. It's mostly orange or red, and there's a little teeny tiny, block of green. So,
And so Jeff, those are good questions that you ask. But one of the things that I want to make certain that if the board hears us talk a little bit about is that the way the TEA looks at data now is not necessarily by year, but by student and their growth. And so you're right, Ms. Wheeler, it's everything, but we will certainly be able to kind of say, okay, here is the last time things were normal, 19. And we'll look at where we were in 19.
Right.
And then hopefully this year will have been a normal enough year to where we can kind of just see where we are. Clearly, our goal is to be at the very, very top of that. And we've talked about that a whole lot, and we're working towards that. But college and career readiness is a huge part of that.
It is.
At the high school level, at the elementary through 8th grade level, it's just STAR scores. And so there are so many pieces and facets to it. I won't call it mad science, but I'll just say some of the metrics that they're using, and it changes from year to year. people don't like to hear this, but the TEA waits until everyone has taken the test. No disrespect to the agency, but after everyone is taking the test, then they establish the floor and they establish the ceiling. So this year we did phenomenally well, but next year it could be mediocre because of where the floor was and where the ceiling was. But we can look at that data and come up with some ideas on what do we do next. But it's so different from year to year, and I'm not passing the buck, because we will do those kinds of things and give you some comparisons and some longitudinal data. But boy, they take all of the school districts, 1,046 school districts, and then they establish the floor and the ceiling, and they change each year, the floor and the ceiling. Am I right, principals?
Yes.
Okay, and so we will continue to do those kinds of things for the board, because we want to know how well our kids are growing. And really, growth is the biggest piece now of this accountability system. And so our goal is to be at the very top of the pyramid. And I think we're going to be there. I think we're going to be there. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some work and some strategy, but I think we're going to get there.
Jeff, at one point when they came out with this new rating system, and they had the different domains, at first, one of the domains was attendance in elementary school, okay? And we were all like, okay, you know, the kid doesn't decide that, the parent does, you know? If the parent takes them out of school for a month to go out of the country or whatever, you know, I mean, so these are the kind of moving targets that.
So you're saying it's like school finance, I'll never understand it.
You will understand it, but then you'll think it's a moving target.
Yeah, or scratch your head as to the logic.
You got a business degree, you'll do it.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Waller.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay, we'll
Name this carrot and move the carrot faster.
go ahead and move to item 9, consent agenda. A, determine and approve any consent agenda items. B, approve board meeting minutes. 1, regular board meeting minutes of June 23rd, 2021. C, notice the Board of Employment of Professional Staff. D, receive 2021-2022 LaPorte ISD Student Handbook. E, receive report of cooperative fees paid by LaPorte ISD. F, receive quarterly investment report for June 2021. G, approve 2021-2022 Texas Teacher Evaluation Support System T-Test, appraisal calendar, and T-Test list of teacher appraisers. H, approve 2021-2022 LaPorte ISD Student Code of Conduct. I, approve change to the compensation plan for 2021-2022. J, approve first reading TASB Local Policy Update 117 affecting local policies CH Local, CHE Local, CB Local, and DEC Local. K, approve purchase of school buses for LaPorte ISD Transportation Department. Ms. Thompson, you read back the consent agenda for us?
Consent agenda items include 9B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K.
Okay, we'll seek a motion.
So
Can-
moved.
Can
Ms.
we ask a
Green?
question without pulling these off? I'm sorry,
Oh, go
the
ahead.
protocol on this, like, is it possible to ask a question without
If you
pulling?
want, yeah.
It's a real
particular
basic
item?
question.
Or just a general, or
Well,
just
I
a
like-
particular item?
There's 4, but it's I promise it's quick, and it's my last question for that.
Go
Well, we-
ahead.
So
No, it's all
I just
good.
had, so being the new guy, like on the, when I started looking at the handbook on D and H, right, that code of conduct in the handbook, you know, it's like 100-page documents. Is there
Yes.
anything that was amended this year that would be different from last year? That's my only question. I'm not, I promise these are my last questions.
No, Kathy and I are usually tearing this apart,
Yeah.
like, if we can't enforce it, don't write it down.
No, I mean, because I feel bad, I read through it, but I just
No,
didn't
it's
know
all
there's
good. You know.
changes to it.
No, it's all good.
Okay, first, I'm going to do the easy question first, and on the code of conduct, nothing changed. The only thing that changed was in the list of possession of prohibited items, the knuckles was moved for whatever reason. It was moved It used to be right behind a firearm and right before a stun gun, and now it's after a stun gun. I mean, but that was a change. And they changed a firearm silencer and suppressor. They added it to the list of prohibited items, but took it out of the felony, the Title V felony
And we
items.
get those updates from TASB.
And we get this is from TASB, yes.
Okay, perfect.
And they were kind of last minute Nellies because of the legislative session. So we 0 hour trying to get this prepared for you. There were a couple of changes in the student handbook. One of them, House Bill 1525, and we will be learning more about this, the human sexuality instruction. Right now we do It's Your Game is our curriculum. We've had it for quite a number of years, and parents were able to opt out of having their children participate in that curriculum. Now, beginning this year, they have to opt in, and so we've our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will receive a parent permission slip. The only other changes, of course, with House Bill 4545.
That's a big one.
The Student Success Initiative has changed in the past. 5th graders and 8th graders had 3 opportunities, and or they could possibly face retention if they didn't pass.
Isn't that the one where we have to have all these committees now that
Mhm.
read about?
Yes,
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
it is.
When I was reading that, I'm just thinking, what a logistical nightmare. So if a student that struggled, say, in 5th grade is now in 6th grade, his 5th grade teacher has to be involved in
Yes.
this. I'm just like, oh my.
And that change is in here, and that is in here. Also, we had taken it out last year. We put it back in. We have taken it out again, the language about general visitors to the campuses. And as we made a presentation to you about our COVID plans, this was another piece, is that there will be no lunch visitors, and that visitors to the campus must be authorized. So, and that's for ARDs and parent meetings and things like that, but just trying to deter our...
So you're not trying to win friends and influence people?
No,
Those
I'm
grandparents
secondary.
and
They
those
don't come and
parents-
eat lunch with us in secondary,
That's
but no.
true. Joel, you are not
No.
going to win friends.
And it really is a tough decision. And, and I know when I was an elementary school principal, those are very important times that the parents want to come have their, have lunch. Or the first, the first Monday of, in September is Grandparents' Day. And but we just would, our discussions are that we recommend limiting when students are required to be at school, that we limit the number of outside visitors.
No, I understand.
But for the most part, that is it. Another change, which is on just about every page, is, and I like the change. It's made it was a little challenging to get through this, accurately to so that whenever we made referencing page numbers to other sections, but now all of the policy that this language is backing is cited. So if a parent wants to know where did you get this information, the policy number is cited. And I've tried whenever possible not just to cite the policy, but to also cite where we've referenced it on our website so that they could go to the parent portal. And these, if they go use the electronic version that will be posted on the website, then there is a link to that. That's it.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
The other one was for Rhonda, and it's about the investment report on the CDs. This is probably a really dumb question, but I noticed that 4/5 of our investment is with Austin County State Bank. I was just wondering, is there a rhyme or reason to that? Is that something we could shift to local, assuming they all have pretty much the same interest rate?
Right, that's the reason. It's because of the
They have
rate,
another one?
yeah. Because we compare the rates before we invest in the CDs.
What's the current rate in Austin County?
I don't know what the current rate is.
Is it on that?
Well, that's. Yeah, but that's not necessarily the current rate. That's the rate at the time we purchased the CD.
.02?
What is the one we have at Gulf Coast?
What's the rate we have at?
Well, no, we have like a 20% of our money is invested with Gulf Coast Education.
Yeah.
But there's nothing local that has a comparable, I'm guessing?
So each time it comes up for renewal, we check all of our places and we go with what best rate we get because we invested for a year. And our pools are like way low. They're like at point, Sheila does the investing. That's why she's asking, answering the
I
questions.
figured that's what it was, okay.
The pool rates, now we have a lot of our money right now at Wells Fargo because their interest rate is higher than our pool rates. So Wells Fargo is our depository bank. And they have to, and of course, all of our money is secured by, they have to secure it with collateralized.
Gotcha.
And so we're even putting more there than we have anywhere else because of the rates. And we've done that before in the past, but it got to where the pools started going up and up and up, and so then we quit using Wells Fargo because they never really changed, but now Wells Fargo is good. So we just kind of go with wherever we can get the best rate.
Gotcha.
And right now, each time the CD matures, it depends on what bank has the best rate at that point in time, because that's when we reinvest it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That makes sense.
That's all I got, I promise.
Okay, that's enough. Okay, anybody else on the board, any questions on the consent agenda items? Okay, Ms. Green, you had made a motion, you keep your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we need a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Shoppy seconded, okay, so board, call for the vote. Ms. Wheeler, yea or nay on the consent
I
agenda?
think she got off. She was not feeling.
Okay, okay, so, okay, it's 6-0. I guess, Candace, if you'll make a note of Ms. Wheeler. Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 10, action or discussion items. A, discuss and possibly adopt a resolution number 2021-15, designating the Air Parks Reinvestment Zone, establishing the boundaries thereof, and providing for an effective date pursuant to chapters 312 and 313 of the Texas Tax Code. Need to seek a motion?
So moved.
Ms.
Second.
Thompson and Ms. Green seconded. Board, call for the vote if there are any questions? No? Okay, so there you go, 6-0. Okay, thank you so much. That's passed. And B, consider endorsing Darlene Bro, okay, for TASB Board of Directors, Region 4, Position B.
I don't know Darlene, but reading her credentials was pretty strong. She seemed like a really sharp lady. Kathy, do you know her through any?
No, she's new.
She's on A-League,
But,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's new, but
I mean, I haven't
I would
met her at
endorse
Gulf
her.
Coast.
I mean, yeah, she'll be good.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, seek a motion for that.
So moved.
Ms.
Second.
Green, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Board, call for the vote. Okay, thank you. And we go to item C, consider endorsing Tony Hopkins for TASB Board of Directors, Region 4, Position C. I believe he is a incumbent. I think he's been on that.
He's an incumbent, and there's not anybody very much
Right.
more qualified than
Yeah.
Tony.
Is he in Friendswood?
Friend-
Yes. He took 2 years as president, and he's gotten us through a pretty big mess with our
With
changing
Gulf
over
Coast.
our secretary thing. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
he's a good guy. So moved, or did somebody move already?
No, I don't think so
Sorry.
on this one. Let's
I'll make a
get
motion.
Ms. Thompson, and then Mr. Shoppy seconded. Okay, board, we'll call for the vote. Oh,
Oh, you're back.
Ms. Wheeler is back. Is that?
You
I'm
made
gonna say
it.
Yay on that one, I guess.
Yes.
So, okay, so Ms. Wheeler is back and voted yay on item C. Okay, we go to item 11, action on closed session items. We don't have any action on that, so we go to item 12. We adjourn at 8:31 p.m.